Today we are following up on the toxicity conversation from last week with another good example of why sometimes just talking in keys in general is going to be a bad thing, but obviously actions speak louder than words. There was some really crazy comments in that video where we showed the priest like life gripping people into their death and trying to like subterfuge his strategies and act like he wasn't doing anything wrong. Really scary behavior, and a lot of people actually try to defend it. Now I think a lot of the people defending it were frankly people who are friends with this guy, but there was like some comments were like saying like, as the person who is receiving the toxicity, you should be better equipped to deal with it and you should not be making such a big deal out of it. A lot of comments like that, and some comments even more extreme saying talking about toxicity is bad, is not something you should be doing. You shouldn't be spreading this around. I do this kind of stuff because I think, first of all, it's funny. I think a lot of people enjoy laughing at it. That video was like ultra extreme, frankly, but it was still funny, and I think we had a good laugh during it as well. But the main reason I made that video and videos like this one that you're going to see here today are because I think these players are just acting in a way that is not acceptable for the video game, especially in the pug world, and people need to know about that. Even if a single person is warned about it, I think I've done my job. But my collective experience on YouTube here is meant to be trying to help Blizzard get a grasp on this problem. I guess they just simply don't care, as they never seem to change on the topic, but regardless, the fight continues. The number one fix for me for this game would be to reduce this type of toxicity, reduce this type of aggression towards others, and also to make Mythic Plus a better pugging environment. Both of these things go hand in hand. So like, I've basically made it my career to try to raise awareness and potentially bring Blizzard into this conversation. They are not listening, but regardless, it's like the best change I could think of for the game. People want, fixes removed. People want things different in the game. I don't really care about any of that. I just want the community to be better and the game to foster a better community. But anyway, we have a pretty funny example in one of our funnier dungeons of the expansion, and I'm going to show you guys that right now. We start the key off with something that I'm not even understanding what's happening here. I don't know what the actual like minutes leading up to this key starting are, and there's no timestamps in the chat. Head Bandy from Kazakh, he goes tank with what? How many questions? He says tank with 6 question marks. There's a lot of question marks. He says, I use CD, man. I have no idea what CD he would even use. You guys tell me, what CD does Warlock try to use before the key? I would imagine that's what this is referring to. He invited this guy. They didn't do a countdown, so now this guy's like agitated by this. We've seen this with Demon Hunters a lot. There's even a video from BFA where a guy actually leaves over it. Yeah, I'm unaware what this guy's upset about, but I assume it's that. Then perhaps like even in unison, he says repair, and he says I canceled. So he started the timer and then canceled it, meaning they weren't putting the key in anymore. So if that is actually the case, then that's kind of funny, because the Warlock's kind of like mad or freaking out. Maybe he's joking, I don't know, but he's kind of overly commenting on something that maybe he wasn't fully paying attention to. That's all before we start the actual recording. Then once the recording starts, the guy says, now okay, and the tank actually replies to him. He says, just run, meaning like, I guess, stop talking, like just follow me kind of thing. I don't really get it. We're gonna start the dungeon with like a crazy aggressive pull. I actually kind of like this pull, to be honest. I'm very eager to see how it goes, but yeah, this is like hyper aggressive, especially for an 11. A lot of the trash just not really funneling in well. We got it kind of all spread out. As you see the DPS chart, it doesn't really look like people are maximizing their damage. The Warlock is going to do well, but we have a Fire Mage and a Shadow Priest. No surprise there. They're struggling to beat the tank, and we got a dead Holy Priest. This key's already got a little bit of something. Shadow Priest losing to a tank, and a Holy Priest who's an angel. Welcome to Mythic Plus pugging. But yeah, the Warlock, he's going to die too. 3 deaths now on this pack, and it's going to be a total mess. Yeah, I think this is pretty aggressive, honestly, especially on a Sanguine week, as we see a lot of mobs are just full health right now due to Sanguine. The guy says N1, N1. This is again the Warlock. I don't know if he's talking about the virus. Fire, please, I guess is what he's trying to say. I have no idea what this guy's asking for. Talking way too much. We're now up to 5 deaths on this ridiculously aggressive pull that is just like healed twice to full because of Sanguine. The guy is again typing. He says F-I-E-R. I guess he's saying fire. He's spelling it wrong over and over again. He says CC, brothers. Here's a good reason why people probably want Sanguine removed though, right? Like, look at these mobs are actually at 80% health right now after being in combat for 2 minutes. Warlock gonna go down again though, so we're now up to 6 deaths on the first pack that we used Bloodlust on. Basically just chaining the first pack into the second pack, which is not like a terrible idea. I know a lot of people probably like to do this, but when you already have 6 deaths and people are all scattered, I think this is making even more problems occur. Also crazy, look at the chat. Frontal on me, frontal on me. Does that help people? Man, that seems like that would be so spammy. Just now chaining that pack into the next pack as well. We're gonna grab these 2 to our right, and this is now almost 4.5 minutes of just straight combat, never getting out of combat. We have 6 deaths, and we still have these Shadow Priests barely beating the tank. So like, yeah, I think like these strategies work really well if you have good burst DPS, but it's pretty clear that in the Pug world, a lot of this isn't happening. Continuing the aggression, we are going to take this pack of 6 enemies on a fortified 11 and then combine them with this pack of 5 enemies, all of which have probably at least 1 cast per mob on average that you need to interrupt. This is a lot of stuff going on. You pretty much did like the same thing in the first pack, and we have now a huge onus on the ability to actually stop casts. And this comp is not great with it. I mean, I don't know. We have 2 priests. We have basically all ranged, and then a tank who is not a Vengeance Demon Hunter. So I'm surprised to see this go well at all. We have the affixes out as well. This is a Incorporeal week as well. So this is a pretty difficult week trash-wise. But ultimately, the overwhelming mechanic count is going to catch up with them. And I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but the tank is trying to move it around the corner. And then as he does, one of those expulse casts gets off and kills 3 players. Well, kills 2 players. The mage doesn't die, but I assume that's just like cauterize or something he procs. And as that happens, the Ted Bandy guy from Kazakh says, noob, noob, noob. He's just typing a ton of O's. Like, what is he doing? Noob, mage, 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 noob, interrupt. Spelled not even, I mean, that's not even close. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the weak ores or whatever that add-on is. Probably part of Omni CD, but you can see the interrupts on the screen and you can see the actual CC as well. I mean, the mage doesn't kick too frequently. I feel like the kicks are just not ever going to work though. Like with a Holy Priest and this comp, we don't really have a lot of options. I'm not yet see Dragon Breath used, but he has like the knockback as well, and he's not using that. He does kick something there, and it is on cooldown now as the tank begins to drag him behind the corner. That ultimately gets us killed. But yeah, as we see, we have Dragon Breath and the knockback up, and neither get used, and then the guy just dies. I just don't really think like the reality here, you're just not going to get every one of these kicks in a pug, and to be insulting somebody else, I mean, I think that's just totally not productive in any way, especially as a warlock. Like, it's not like you were carrying the load of the CC yourself. But this just cracks me up. Noob. I mean, how many zeros is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think it's like 15 zeros, 15 O's in the first word, and maybe like 10 or 12 in the second word. Talk about this all the time though, where like people blame the tank for stuff that's like relatively not that big of a deal, and the tank did kind of like fine. This is kind of that way, right? Like, we got a situation here where honestly we're putting a ton of pressure on the group by pulling this way, and they're blaming the mage for it. Like, I don't know that it's his fault, to be honest. But yeah, that warlock has said a lot of things, and the priest, that is the holy priest, he says, you talk a lot, dude. Can you just shut the fuck up? And he actually misspells talk as tank, which is a funny little situation here, because he basically thinks he then accidentally referred to the tank with that comment, so he tries to correct himself. He says, not tank, haha, my bad. And I think this is like a really funny little comment here. He's basically insulting the warlock, and at the same time he's doing so, his like weak aura thing is telling other players that the warlock is handing out cookies. Telling him to STFU in the same paragraph where you say he's handing out cookies is just wow in a nutshell right there. But yeah, this fight has been a lot easier recently. It is not even Tyrannical Week anymore, and this warlock doesn't handle the mechanics. He's gonna go ahead and die, and he just drops his puddle like just in the dead center of the room there. I think he gets hit by a swirl. If you see him, he's kind of on the top of the screen right now, and he's just not really moving very accurately. He's kind of like turning very weird, and then he just kind of stands still and dies. So I assume he gets hit by a swirl at the end. So that's the guy putting like 12 zeros in the word noob and calling somebody else out. Now, of course, we have to one-up each other here. So the guy who was telling him to STFU before, he now says, what a noob for dying to that swirl. This is a 101. If you guys ever want to figure out how to deplete a key, you do this. Some guy's talking too much, and then you start insulting him back. This is a guaranteed way to end a key. You will have more disbands over doing this sort of thing than any other behavior. Anything mechanically based, anything timer based, none of it. It's all going to come down to this type of communication, where this guy is clearly like, I don't know, like just running off of the mouth, maybe a little childish, acting like an idiot. And then if you, as somebody who isn't doing that initially, is now mad at him doing it, and you start insulting him, you've done the irreparable. That guy is bad, but you are the nail in the coffin. That guy is now totally never going to shut up, and he's probably going to take the morale of the key with him. Whether or not that's why this happens, I don't know. But as you see, Ted Bandy again gets the circle mechanic, and he literally doesn't even try to move. Like, straight up doesn't even try. I don't know if this is just him not paying attention. Like, who knows what the reality is here. These guys are just living on a different planet, but he just drops that dead center right next to the boss. Actually, like kind of 2 players do, forcing everybody to move, gets the Shadow Priest there killed. He like kind of also doesn't, like, I mean, they drop him right next to each other. I think the Shadow Priest maybe even dies to the swirls, but it takes him so long to get out of that he pretty much just dies from that. Like watch what actually happens with the Shadow Priest. You can see it on the top of the screen. He's basically not running out of it. Like he's running sideways. There's only really one way out. It's either backwards or forwards, and he runs towards the water, which is actually just blocked off the entirety. Like the lightning goes to the water. So this guy is like never gonna get out this way. But yeah, this is just a 2-range, just really being weird about the mechanics, just not even trying. And then again, you know, I said about the nail in the coffin. We need one more nail. The Shadow Priest, Sad Priest, the guy's living up to his name, by the way. He says, bro, you good? I mean, honestly, I don't know what you think the response to this conversation is going to be. Like, what do you think saying this is actually going to do? But then maybe like the weirdest decision out of all of these. I mean, I get it. The key is like, this is a very long fight and the timer is probably not going to work out at this point. But like, instead of trying to solo save it with boss at 4%, now that 4% is a very high amount of health, but still we have 2 other players alive. We actually just go in suicide. Then this guy says something that I cannot imagine. I don't even know what language that is. And whatever he says, the Warlock replies to say, I am noob, sorry. And then again, he says, get good, Warlock, you are so bad. Then he leaves. He's actually the guy who leaves first, the priest, which is really weird. The Warlock says, can you boost me? Meanwhile, the mage, who's just like not said a word the whole time. By the way, his name is Notre Dame, which is kind of funny on its own. He says, go 10. Like he's optimistic. He's like, we can still go, guys. This group is fine. Let's continue. We got to take a look at what this guy actually said, though. This wouldn't be a video if we didn't. I had to like copy and paste the A with the 2 dots. I don't really, whatever. This is apparently Swedish. You guys tell me who speaks Swedish. Why is there some A's with 2 dots, some A's with no dots? Is there a 3-dot A? That'd be cool. But yeah, I don't know if this is like right because the translation seems really strange. He says, Havla Sar Lakhan Har Sakert Hem Hajalp. Hajalp. That apparently means damn strange lock. He surely has help at home. Usually when we do this translation, it's like, oh, that's funny. But I'm like, okay, that's clearly not the right translation. So somebody can translate this for me. I have no idea what this guy's saying. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a tough one because honestly, I do think like, you know, as a tank, we put a lot of pressure on your group. This was probably never I mean, I'd love to hear it from the person who submitted this. If you have done this a lot, does this go well frequently, especially on fortified weeks? I feel like this is very, very dangerous. Can we salvage it from there on an 11 fortified? Honestly, I don't know. I really don't. I've never really seen this type of situation, but I do think like if you just don't die there, if you don't suicide, we can probably kill that boss and at least continue. But unfortunately, I think the priest has just sealed your fate by fighting with that warlock. So this is another great example of why communication kills keys more than anything. If those guys just don't say a word the whole key, I mean, first of all, it obviously just goes better because they're probably typing instead of playing at some point. But regardless, like that kind of conversation is just always going to end the key, even though at this point the key may not be successful. Probably a little too early to tell, but it doesn't look like it's going well. Whenever you start a fight, like whenever somebody is talking too much and you back it up and make it even worse, you're just basically saying like, all right, this key's just 100% over. So this is the first video submitted. Here we have another one as well that I'm going to be reviewing in the future here, so stay tuned for that one. That one's probably even worse. This behavior is just crazy to me, and I think it is something that we kind of set up as the tank. So let me know what you guys think. EU is just providing hits, man. I cannot believe how much crazy stuff's going on EU. But thanks for watching. If you guys didn't see the video we were referring to, definitely want to check that out. That is an all-timer, probably the most toxic, most ridiculous behavior I have ever seen in this game, and especially when we saw it in such a low key, it was really disappointing. Seeing these keys that are like not even progression level causing these types of fights is always a head scratcher to me. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys in the next one.